The body was designed to run on feeding-fasting cycles. However, not many people have come to that realization, and until then, they may not see the significant changes they've always wanted. And this is not only with weight loss, but also with blood pressure, a reduction in the progression of coronary artery disease, and a reversal of diabetes. Symptoms start getting better, joints end up getting better, mental health starts to look a lot better, and overall the patient starts to look better. What is more, there is no data showing that these patients have lower tendencies to have cancer and tend to live longer. For this to occur, the chemistry induced is called autophagy, where the cells simply recycle all the inner parts to be more efficient. On the other hand, the mitochondria also recycle, which is referred to as mitophagy. Now, these two chemistries, which are basically recycling the biochemistry of your cells, will definitely not happen in a fed state. We've gotten so used to eating, and eating too frequently. Then insulin comes in and puts all of that into storage. What happens is that you build up fat, and what is supposed to happen next is that you live. So when you start to live, you begin to utilize your calories alongside start burning the sugar. When that goes out, after about 4 or 5 hours, the glycogen stores it in your liver. Your muscles then begin the breaking down process to give the calories you need to burn. At about 18-20 hours, you would have run out of that, and your body will begin to signal you to start burning fat. This entire process is how we are supposed to work. This is the real reason why all that fat is put on in the first place. This fat is in storage, and then you start burning the fat. The fat then proceeds to your liver and gets converted to ketones. These ketones are then utilized for energy, and then you can enjoy your next meal. The body was designed to do all of this, and not just pile on all that is consumed. This usually ends up in increased fat stores, which will be a lot harder to break down, if at all. Therefore, keep in mind that when you eat and you're consuming calories, your insulin goes up. This is because the insulin has to take out the sugar from the bloodstream. It is very important that the blood sugar comes down, or else it can cause damage due to the high glucose levels in the bloodstream. And this is basically why we have many diabetic patients. It happens when the glucose attaches itself to proteins, which is the end product of glycation. These proteins then become dysfunctional. Now, what insulin does is that it takes out the glucose and puts it into storage. It first takes it to the liver, which proceeds into the pancreas when it gets full. As more calories and glucose are consumed, it goes into the muscles and stores everything. And from there, it proceeds to the skin. This right here is how things are supposed to work. However, when we only continue to do that, and we only allow all of it to pile on, we get no chance to burn any of it down when we are supposed to burn it down. And this is why we say that the body's biochemistry was made for feeding fasting cycles. However, over time, we have become dysfunctional due to the constant food availability, and so we continued to pile it on, which has become our biggest problem today. We've formed the habit of consuming excessive calories too often. This keeps the insulin levels high all the time. And because the insulin levels don't come back down, you stay in storage mode all the time. Also, keep in mind that high insulin is the problem with hormonal change. We eat too frequently, and quite honestly, the body wasn't designed to eat that frequently. The insulin is meant to go up and then come back down. Now, it was seen that when these insulin levels were brought down by fasting, the blood pressure dropped massively. It plummeted so low that the patients had to be taken off medications. So it's safe to say that fasting can act as the best way to get the blood pressure down. But that's not all. It was observed that the weights also came down, which begs the question, why did the weights come? It's simple. Insulin is a storage molecule that places everything in storage, and so when the insulin levels come down, the fat is then mobilized. Therefore, the first thing that needs to be done is to cut out all sugars. However, you must know that if you begin fasting with your regular diet pattern, your experience will definitely not be palatable. You would feel terribly hungry, you may have an intense sugar withdrawal, and you can get very sweaty. You could even have worse symptoms than this. So, the best advice would be to eliminate all forms of sugars, all artificial foods and all processed foods. Basically, whatever foods are made in a factory or have a barcode on them, as well as foods that have been pulverized and have been turned into powdered. Your main focus should be to eat food in its whole natural form. This means that you must be able to point out the foods when they are served on a plate. Now most people would ask, what about meat, chicken and fish? These are totally fine, given that it is grass-fed meat, organic chicken and organic eggs. You can as well add some turkey to it. However, you must eat vegetables in their normal, natural state. You can eat just as much as you want, but it must be the right food. This should be done for about after those 2-3 weeks. The next step would be to learn to skip meals. You wake up in the morning and decide to forget about breakfast. Just skip it. Then at lunchtime, have a delicious lunch and enjoy dinner when it's time. Into the next day, have breakfast, but skip lunchtime and then have dinner. You can have breakfast and lunch the day after that, but then you'd need to skip dinner. Basically, the aim is to learn to skip meals and you'll be fine. The worst case scenario is that you probably got a little hungry, but that was all sorted with a glass of water. Remember that during this period, you'll need to take lots of water. Now, just like the first step, this will take another 2 weeks. This process is a gradual one, because just like an athlete, you can't rush into a 10-kilometer immediately. You would need to build into it. So for these few weeks, you will have to skip meals. The next step after skipping these meals will be to increase the range. So in a week, out of 5 days, you will have only 2 meals. And these meals will be eaten within 6 hours of each other. With that, you will have 18 hours without eating anything but drinking water alone. There'll be no calories in those 18 hours. All you'll be able to take is black tea, black coffee, and water. Once again, this will run for another 2 weeks. You'll have 2 meals from Monday to Friday within 6 hours, dedicating the remaining 18 hours to fasting. On weekends, however, you are free to have fun, considering those days will be spent with family. So go ahead with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. However, there can't be snacks in between. This goes on for another 2 weeks. After these 2 weeks, the actual fasting can begin. So, 5 days in the week, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you'll have to skip the second meal. This means on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you will only be eating 1 meal. However, the rest of the days in the week are open to 2 meals, while weekends can still hold 3 meals. This is just a process to get them into the fast gradually. And in most cases, the patients are able to make it work this way. But if you try to push for 1 meal a day or time-restricted eating within 6 hours from the beginning, it will be a total failure. But with the gradual process, they are now empowering themselves and seeing another part of themselves. One that opens them to a real inner consciousness where they see the real me that is beyond the feelings, body, and sensations, and they have control of it. Now here are 4 health-changing tips that you might want to hold on to. Number 1. Be sure not to eat frequently, but only when you are hungry. Number 2. Eat only natural foods in their natural state. Number 3. Make sure that you sleep for at least 7 hours a day. Number 4. Finally, try to find pleasure in life and activities so you can avoid metabolizing bad physiology from bad habits. So try your hardest to find happiness and pleasure in your life, and you can rest assured that after doing all these, you'll experience a major turnaround in your life. If you found this video helpful, then you may want to check out other videos on the channel. Also, feel free to share your experiences in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching.